Welcome to my first big Python project or here on YouTube. This is where we are going to break your habit of following people coding on YouTube and them calling it a project, okay? We are going to break this normality because it's not normal. You should not be following people coding. You should be coding yourself. And this is what I am about to start doing. I will start making small beginner projects like this where you will have a certain amount of prerequisites, which we'll discuss on the next slide, but it is achievable within a couple of months of learning Python, especially if you're doing it every day. And even just looking at the prerequisites here, you will be able to focus your learning so that you can start this. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, the prerequisites are that you need to know Python classes. They are I'm not even going to say they're mandatory because the class is built for you already. So there is boilerplate code sitting there ready for you to use. I really am holding your hand in this first project, as it should be, right? You should be focusing on building logic and getting the program to work rather than worrying about, extra things. But there are a couple other things as well. Obviously, you will need to know file handling. That is having a text file, pulling the text from that file and placing it inside a list. It is classed as a beginner concept. So, and it is part of your learning process. But again, if you don't know it because you've learned differently, go out and learn it. I promise you, if you understand methods, if you understand functions, and certain things like loops, and you will be able to grasp this concept very quickly. So the next thing obviously is conditionals. Conditionals are if statements, and I haven't written it in here, but loops are another thing that you will need to know. And of course, beginner DSA, which stands for data structures and algorithm. And what that means is algorithmically, you know how to manipulate things with loops and if statements and how to just do basic logic. And data structures is talking about things like, please know what a list is. Like if you don't know what a list is, maybe you need to do a little bit more learning before you start this project. And also, if you're really pumped about doing this and that's your setback, go out now in the next 2 hours and learn about lists and containers, like data structures, okay? I promise you, if you're into this, you can learn this stuff pretty quickly. Next slide. Okay, the activities that you'll be doing in this YouTube course, this little course that we're doing, okay, is you'll be creating a GitHub repository. You'll be reading a brief, which will have a scenario on it, and then it will tell you what you need to do to complete this program to an acceptable level. Next thing you'll have to do is code the program, of course. So we will be coding it obviously in Python. It's up to you what IDE you use, whether you use PyCharm, Visual Studio Code, or anything else, okay? That's really up to you. The next thing is that you will go to the bottom in the documentation, which you will see in the coming videos. At the bottom, there is of the table of contents, you will see test cases, and I will want you to test them. Again, it doesn't matter if they don't all work, because we don't want you to create a perfect program. We want you to finish the program. You can always come back in like a year's time and absolutely perfect this with your knowledge. But for now, we want you to create a program where the majority of the tests work. Again, that's up to you. And then, but we want you to complete the project from start to finish. And we don't want you to get stonewalled on problems and then give up. Okay, we want to try and make this as smooth and as easy as possible for you to complete. So you know what it's like to code a program on your own, test it, and then most importantly of all, write documentation. And in this way, we are going to write a GitHub repo README file, which we will then extend into a wiki without making your repository public. Okay, and that for you might right now that might not make any sense, but that's okay. It'll all come clear in the videos. But just in case you do know about that, but I'm going to show you how to make a GitHub wiki manually. Okay, next. Okay, so in the program is to create a car simulator. And just so you can visualize it, because this is a text-based program and it will be printed out in the console because we are beginners. But I want to visually show you what we're talking about. When the car is commanded to accelerate forward, so when the car is placed in forward and it accelerates, it will accelerate away from 0 towards positive numbers. So let's say 5. When the car then is placed in reverse and it accelerates, because we are doing this via text, the reverse acceleration will go into the negative numbers. Now, that again, to represent reverse. Now, of course, we know in physics that when we accelerate forward, we go to 5 miles an hour, kilometers an hour. However, it's also the same if we go into reverse, okay? When we accelerate, even though we're going backwards, we are still gaining speed and it will go up into the positives. However, because this is like a simulator, we will reverse into the negatives, okay? So that we can simulate reverse. Just wanted to state that. Again, because we're using a text-based program, when we get to the direction of travel for the car, and I'll discuss this again, but I want you to see it so you can visualize it now. Maybe you'll jump ahead and look at the documentation. When we ask the car to turn left or right, so when a command is given left or right, the car will turn on a clock face. So if we go to the right, the car will begin at 12 o'clock. And when we command it to go right, it'll +1 to an int variable. So if we were looking at this on a clock, it will go this way. But of course, in real life, if you +1 to 12, that becomes 13. But we will obviously have to put in logic, and this is where I was talking about the beginner data structures and algorithms, conditionals, and things like that. This is where this comes into practice. We will need to make sure that 12 plus 1 becomes 1. So we're obviously going to have to throw in an if statement there. So if 13, change this to a 1. And also, if we command it to turn left, we've decided that we will add -1. So that means that we will -1. So if this is 12, it'll go to 11, which is not a problem if we continue to turn left until we get to 1. When we get to 1, we're obviously going to need to create a conditional, and we're going to have to use our logic, programming skills to then make sure that so 1 minus 1 becomes 0. But there's no 0 in this clock, so we're going to have to set up a conditional to make sure that if it is at 1, it resets to 12. Okay, just some food for thought before we get into the real thick of this program. This is the kind of things you're going to be dealing with. It's really simple, but it's fun, especially when you have someone like me giving you the answer, but it's really important to me. The next thing is gears. This is an automatic car, so we will have to change the gears. So I've written this again in Python speak, so I'm hoping you can understand it, but if speed is equal to 5, that's first gear. If gear is equal to 10, it's still first gear. If gear is equal to 15, it becomes gear number 2, 20, and all the way up to 5. And then past 5, we don't need to change gear because that is the maximum gear. But there is just some food for thought for your programming mind to mince over while you're progressing through the videos, so you don't feel like you're getting slapped with these ideas when you're in the thick of the really in-depth, brief video. And finally, just to finish off, I want to say that this is your project. You are building this. You make the rules in the end. You're not going to show it to me. I'm not going to mark it, and nobody's going to mark it. Okay? So do the best you can, okay? You'll hear me talk about this a lot in the videos. At what level of programming will you be when you finish this program? This program is the final Python programming assignment for a year 0 computer science programming module at a university. So basically, this is not part of a bachelor. This is what people do when they don't have the correct grades to get into computer science. The British education system gives everybody a second chance. That's why we love the UK. So the next thing is, this could be difficult, and you might find yourself talking to ChatGPT to find answers. Use ChatGPT, or as I call it, ChatGPT. Use ChatGPT as a tool for teaching. Don't throw the code in and go, do this, because it will. It'll just give you the answer. But the problem is you're not going to become a better programmer by doing that. If you're having a problem and you can't fix your bug, sure, throw your code in and go, where is my error? I do it all the time. If I cannot find my error within about 20 minutes, to make sure that I'm not burning time in my progress, I will throw it into ChatGPT and go, fix this error, please. You got to be kind to AI. They're going to rule the world one day. So make sure you say please. And finally is be proud. When you complete this, you would have done this on your own. This could almost be your first real Python project. And it's big. It's a big beginner Python project. And you should be proud of yourself. So what I want you to do now is, first and foremost, hit that like button, because it's really important to me that this video gets out. The other ones will flow on nicely, but this one you must hit like. And I want you to go to the next video in the playlist. If you are not in the playlist, find that playlist, and it's in the description below. Get in there, click on it. You'll probably immediately come back to this video, skip it, and start on the next video. And I promise you, by the time you hit documentation, you're going to feel so much confidence in yourself as a programmer. Don't forget that if you have any problems, hit the comments. Just hit the comments in any video and I will do my best to get to you. Okay? I'm at uni too, and I will do my best to answer you when I have a moment. I'm always checking, so I'll be quick, unless I'm sleeping. Hit that next video. Let's do it.